So I want to find sine 120 degrees. The first thing you want to do to find sine 120 degrees without a calculator is you first want to find 120 degrees on your unit circle. So 120 degrees would be, well, it would be right there. So 120 degrees is right there. Now you want to think of what's the coordinate right there. Okay, but do you want the x or y value of the coordinate? Well, isn't sine y value? So think of what's the coordinate right here, and I want the y value of that coordinate. So what is the y value? The y value at that coordinate is square root 3 over 2. Done. You have to understand, sine means y, cosine means x. So let's do this one. Cosine negative 210. So we first have to find 210. 210, is 210 normally right there? But we're doing negative, so we're going under. Okay, this one was over. This one is going to go under 210. So it's right there. That coordinate right there. Well, what is the cosine's the x value? What's the x value of that coordinate right there? What is the x value? Well, we're going over square root 3 over 2 and up a half. And aren't we going negative square root 3 over 2 and up a half? So it's negative square root 3 over 2. The x value is over square root 3 over 2 up a half. Let's jump down to this one. Let's finish our sines and cosines. Cosine 3 pi over 2. So let's find 3 pi over 2. 3 pi over 2. What 3 pi over 2 means 1.5 pi. So I'm going to go 1 pi and a half. So there I am. And I want the cosine of that. Well, cosine is your x or y. It's x. So I want the x value of this. Well, isn't that 0, negative 1? So which one's the x? The 0 and the negative 1? It's the 0. There we go. Next, negative 9 pi over 4. Ooh, negative 9 pi over 4. Negative 9 pi over 4. Isn't that going to be 2 pi, 2.14? So not 2.14. 2 and a quarter. A little bit trickier. You got to go around once in the negative direction. And then aren't you going to go a quarter more? So it's going right to there. So for that coordinate right there, I want sine. I want the y value of that coordinate. So I want not over, I want how far down I went. How far down is that? I go over and down. So that coordinate is down negative square root 2 over 2. Now tangent's going to be a little bit trickier. First thing I do is find 420. So 420 is, well, this is 360. Ooh, how much farther do I have to go to get 420? How much farther is that? How much more? Well, if we do 480 minus 360, is that 120 left over? So isn't 120 right to here? So there's the coordinate. Isn't this one the same as this one? But tangent is y over x. Is sine over cosine, y over x. So y over x. So what's my y? Well, from this point, did I go over 1/2 and up square root 3 over 2? So my y is square root 3 over 2 divided by my x, which is negative 1/2. You're in over, this coordinate right here is over negative 1/2 up square root 3 over 2, and it's y over x. Now when you divide, you have to flip and multiply. The 2's disappear, divide out, and you get negative square root 3. So tangent of 480 is really the same as tangent of 120. They're the same. Y divided by x reduced is negative square root 3. This one, tangent of pi. Tangent of pi. Well, let's first draw pi. Okay, there is that. Pi is right to here. So I want that dot. That dot is, isn't that negative 1, 0? It's negative 1, 0 is that dot. Okay, don't I want to do y over x? So y over x, so y is 0 over x. What's 0 divided by negative 1? Isn't that 0? All right, so 0. Now, real quick, what is 1 divided by 0? Undefined. If the 0 is ever on the bottom, and it will sometimes with tangents, it's undefined. This one ended up being 0 divided by negative 1. Okay, it is 0. But watch out, tangent does have some undefineds. So, we want to do cosecant 315 degrees. First thing we want to do is find 315 degrees. All right, so I'm going to start there. And 315, well, that's 180. That's 270. So won't 315 go right to there? That right there is 315 degrees. Okay, now that coordinate, if I went cosecant, cosecant is the reciprocal of sine. So if I went cosecant, what you have to understand, it's going to be 1 over sine, and sine is y. So cosecant is 1 over y, or the reciprocal of sine. So at this dot, we want to think, what is the y value? Okay, so we got to think, okay, what is the y value there? Well, that coordinate right there is square root 2 over 2, comma, negative square root 2 over 2. So that's the coordinate. And don't I want the y value flipped? So if I flip that y value, what I'm going to have is negative 2 over the square root of 2. Now, this right here is not the final answer because it's commonly, it's common not to have square roots in the denominator. So I want to get rid of that square root in the denominator. So what I have to do is I have to multiply top and bottom by the square root of 2 to get the square root of 2 out of the bottom. And here's what happens when you do that. You get negative 2 square root 2 over, what is the square root of 2 times the square root of 2? That is the square root of 4. But what's the square root of 4?
2.
That would be 2 square root 2 on top, and the square root of 4 is 2. Don't the 2's divide out? Leaving you just with negative square root 2. So the answer is negative square root 2 is your final answer for this one because these divide out, leaving you that value for cosecant 315. Okay, we have secant negative 11 pi over 6. So first thing we got to do is find negative 11 pi over 6. So if I think I start here, negatives go this way. So that right there is pi. 11 pi over 6 is almost 2 pi. So it's going to take us right to here. You're going to wrap all the way around to right about there. So I want that coordinate right there. So that coordinate right there is over square root of 3 over 2 and up a half. That would be the coordinate at that point. The coordinate right there is right here. And if I went secant, secant is the reciprocal of cosine. Cosine is x, so I want 1 over x, or the reciprocal of x. It's easier to think of it as flipping x. So if you think about it right here, this is your x value. I want the reciprocal of that. So let's flip it. That will become 2 over radical 3. Now, again, we're not liking radicals in the denominator, so I have to get that square root 3 out of the denominator. So I'm going to multiply top and bottom by radical 3. And once I do that, I get 2 radical 3 over, well, radical 3 times radical 3 is the radical 9, which won't that become a 3? So what you're going to end up with is 2 square root 3 over the square root of 9 is 3. So it's 2 radical 3 over 3 is the answer. Because that right there is the reciprocal of square root 3 over 2 is that. The reciprocal of this is that after we change its look. And it is kind of annoying to have to do this right here, but you'll never see the answer like this. It'll always be changed so the radical is into the numerator and not in the denominator. As a reminder, Cosecant is the reciprocal of sine. Secant is the reciprocal of cosine. All right, cotangent 270. First thing we got to do is find 270. So 270, we start here. To get 270, I go around, that's 180. And 270 would end right there. So I want that dot right there. So that dot right there, that dot is 0, -1. There's my terminal point. And I want cotangent. Now cotangent is the reciprocal of tangent. So tangent is y over x, or sine over cosine. So I want the reciprocal of that, so that would be x over y. Remember, these are coordinates. Those are x, y, if you need to write those. So again, tangent was y over x. I want x over y. So can I go look at this and go, okay, I want my x value, which is 0, divided by my y value, which is -1, which this one's a lot easier. 0 divided by -1 is 0. So the answer to cotangent 720 degrees is 0. All right, cotangent -5 pi. So we first have to find -5 pi. So we start here, -5 pi. So isn't this from here to here, is that 1 pi? 2 pi? 3 pi? 4 pi? 5 pi? Man, I went 5 times, 5 half circles in the opposite direction, went backwards. So what is that coordinate right there? That coordinate is -1, 0. So that's your x and your y. And I want cotangent. Cotangent, again, was x over y. So I want x divided by y. So what would that be here? X over y. Won't that be, well, -1 over 0. Now, that should cause a problem for you. We cannot divide by 0. So when you cannot divide by 0, the answer is undefined. So my answer to this one is undefined. I cannot get an answer. There is no answer to this particular one. So as a review for all of these problems, first thing you want to do is find the terminal point for every single one. So we found the terminal point. Then you got to read and think, okay, am I asking for x or y? Sine is y, cosine is x. Tangent is y over x. And then you slowly can then change it to get the cleaned up answer. These two are a little bit harder because you had to clean up the answer. So is tangent here. And don't forget, you can have undefined answers as well.